Hey folks, this is Rabble Rousing Rich Bergeron.
Look, jumping into the tornado, Tony Pennington.
And Psychic Tom's had full predictions tonight. Let's see if we can get it right.
Yeah.
I can get it right.
Well, well, we didn't get the winner right with Cowboys fight last week, but even though the guests didn't get to hear it, I had to think about my prediction when I saw the result because I said, what did I say? I said, if Gaethje's going to win, it's going to be in the first round. So I had a feeling there was
it may be for the better down the road, Rich. Gaethje may have a much better shot at making it interesting with Khabib. He may have that stop.
Yeah, and I guess we didn't really get a chance to see if he's improved his defense. It was too quick. I didn't get to see it either, but it's just been firewood season. Everybody wants every stick of firewood I could possibly get yesterday. It's gonna be a crazy one. And at Facebook Marketplace, if you guys got to sell anything that you go to that thing, man. You could have your own tree farm yourself on that, Tony. Just order a truckload of trees. You can sell them out of your backyard on Facebook Marketplace.
I know.
Crazy.
You know?
I got a path beaten to my door looking for firewood from these people through Facebook. Anyway, we had last week's fights, of course. We got a lot of news to cover, though, before we get to fights. I got a bunch of stuff. Station Casinos. No, not Station Casinos. Same owners that used to own the UFC, but UFC is going to have an IPO. They're hoping to raise $700 million. And so I guess this is going to be the first opportunity for Conor to actually own stock in the UFC. He's always talking about fighting people for their shares in the UFC. So now he can buy his own. $712 million they're looking to raise, and speaking of Station Casinos, this is the same kind of operation that they did, except they've gone pogo sticked. So I don't even know how it's been, if it's ever been done before, like they've done it. But Station Casinos at one time was all private. Then it went public. Then it went back to private. Now it's gone back to public again. So they can't decide what they want to do with it. And it might as well be private now because the Fertittas just ended up sinking like $50 million, I think it was, into Red Rock Resorts, it's called now, the stock. And they just sunk a ton of their own money into it. And because their sentiment was going down with all these companies. And then, lo and behold, this quarter, all of a sudden their sentiment has gone up a little because they invested their own money. People thought they were getting fleeced until they said, hey, look, we're putting our own money into it. It must be good. But, yeah, Endeavor owns the UFC now. Their initial public offering is going to be $30 to $32 per share. 19 million shares, roughly, and change. Going to hit the market. Going to raise up to $712 million, and the offering values the company at about $8 billion. So it's already doubled its value somehow in the minimal amount of time that Endeavor has owned it. You gotta love that. UFC has a history of doing that. They got the Forbes article to say it's worth maybe $1 billion back in the day, and then that was the minimum price after that. So it's pretty crazy. I don't know if that evaluation would pass the Shark Tank, folks. You guys watch that show. And speaking of making money, Sugar Ray Leonard wants to make a little bit more money on his house. You guys see this? He's selling his $52 million home.
I did not.
Yeah, I just saw this the other day. It's just one of those things, I guess. Makes you wonder how far behind Floyd Mayweather is going to be in this situation. Start selling real estate. But no, he's actually rumored now to be having possibly an exhibition match with Pacquiao in Japan. That's the latest rumor with him. But Sugar Ray, yeah, he's selling his Los Angeles home, $52 million. So, I guess that's his retirement plan. Sell the house.
What part of town does he live in?
They lived in there. Him and his wife Bernadette have lived there for 20 years. It's a custom home, the Pacific Palisades area of Los Angeles. 2-acre estate, and they're asking $51.995 million. So, 52 million, almost 52 million. And guess how many square feet the 7-bedroom main house is? 16,773.
Okay. A little smaller than I thought. I thought it was closer to 20.
Last priced, the highest priced public sale on record for the Pacific Palisades is $33.875 million for a mere 15,000 in square and change square foot house. Yikes! But yeah, pretty fancy stuff. Good looking pictures of the interior and on the article here. I don't know if you guys ever watched the Desperate Housewives there, whatever it is. No, the Real Housewives. The Real Housewives shows on Bravo. If you ever flicked through the channels and caught these shows. But there was a scandal a couple years back, and there's a guy in jail over it now. A guy named Joe Guidice, and it was like weird how I stumbled on it one time, and it was this season. I think it's New Jersey Housewives or whatever, and it was just weird. I started watching it, and it was an episode which became famous because they had this dinner and it got heated. It was like real like animosity between two of them, and something happened where the girl like flipped the table. She flipped the table right over, and like glasses, dishes, and all. And I was like, geez, I'm going to watch a couple more of these. So, I didn't really get into it after that, but I watched a few episodes, and then I find out the scandal. They were evading taxes or something like that, and embezzling money. So both of them actually did some jail time, and the wife did less than the husband. But now the husband wants to become an MMA fighter after he gets out because he's bulked up so much behind bars. That's the connection to fighting. Took me a little while to get there, but Joe Guidice, yeah, he's a reformed man, I guess, and he's going to come out and beat some ass. We'll see if that works out for him. But I love how guys have never done this stuff, and they just decide, well, I'm in shape now because I've been behind bars. I'm just going to do it. I don't know if he's had any training or what, but yeah, that's just one of those little things that's in the news this week.
Well, just remember the old cliche. Being in shape is one thing.
Right.
Being in fight shape is a whole different animal.
That is the truth.
All right. Let's see. What else we got? Oh, the fight Tony was supposed to be at, boxing. Pretty good one. Pretty good one. It was supposed to be a tune-up fight, but it was not what it was cut out to be. That was one of the headlines I saw.
You used the cut and there is the pun, I take it, right?
Yeah, I stole that from somebody, of course.
Of course. Did you see the fight?
I saw the cut.
I watched it.
Thanks to your graphic imagery, Tony.
Yeah.
It's pretty serious. Yeah, that was a bad one. I really haven't watched enough fighting at all.
You didn't really know much about Otto Wallin coming into the fight. Undefeated record, but so did Tom Schwartz, and that fight was a 2-round blowout. So, you had a southpaw in there, in Wallin. So, first round, Tyson's doing what Tyson does. Wallin was actually kind of outworking him, but Tyson was, just kind of having fun out there. Did a whole grand entrance for Mexican Independence Day, and he was out there and having a really good time. So was Apollo Creed and Rocky Ford. So in the third round, it was kind of rough. Wallin was a kind of rough guy, and so they're in the corner, and there had been some head clashes, nothing serious. But when you get a southpaw and orthodox fighter, you see that sometimes. And as they're in the corner, Wallin throws a left hand, and a minute or so later, the way the camera angle was facing Fury's left. So you can't see the right side of his face, but you see him like pawing, and it's like, something's not right. And then when he turned around, it's like you just see blood flowing. It's like, holy shit. They got back to the corner, and the referee was like, this was from a punch. And Fury, they're like, no, it was a headbutt. It was a headbutt. They said, and then they actually reviewed it, which I think is a great thing they do now. And they looked at it, and you can see it clearly as day.
Yeah.
Clear as day that a punch lands, and as soon as it lands, his eye opens up, and he just starts pouring. So now, after Mataranka, so he's really, leaking blood out. They do take him over to the doctor. He tells the doctor, I can see, fine, and it's heavyweight championship of the world. Doctor lets him continue. And Fury's cut man, and I apologize for not remembering his name, did a fantastic job. And I heard, and I don't know what the dollar amount was, but Fury gave him like a significant bonus after the fight was over for basically saving his title.
Yeah.
But it got to the point where, Fury started really, catching him later in the fight, had Wallin, stunned pretty good. It looked like there was a chance he may get the stoppage win. And then the last round, Wallin landed a few good punches, and it looked like, Fury was holding on. He definitely was stunned. So the guy that was brought in, as a no-name, no-hope, almost pulled off the Rocky Balboa.
Wow. Yeah. Could have been.
Yeah.
Didn't happen. But, hell of a story. And the other thing about it, too, was, from what I read anyway, there was some antics, some real antics, in addition to the fight opening up, or the cut opening up. Wallin was, I guess, raking him in the eye and really trying to open the cut up again.
The cut had opened, and it was, when the cut was, bleeding pretty good, they were in the corner again, and you could see he took the, the laces of his glove and where the tape is, and he raked it across pretty hard.
Yeah.
And, that, caused even more significant damage. As soon as he did it, you could see the blood really start flowing.
Yeah, crazy.
So the question is, did Tyson Fury underestimate him, or was Wallin better than we thought?
I think it was a kind of a combination of things, Don.
Yeah,
one of them
I would think.
Wallin being better than we thought. That's one. It's hard to say if Fury did underestimate him because the cut happened so early. If this would have been a fight where, just for example, the cut didn't happen, but, Wallin was laying the punches and, holding his own, on a Fury that did not have this disability, which obviously was affecting his vision, and it was also affecting his composure. So, it's hard to say if Fury underestimated him because, hey, anybody can get knocked out or cut at any time. But that's a thing that's like hard to game plan for, because, in football, yeah, you can practice for noise by so I'm going to practice for the noise by closing, our stadium and blaring in music. You can try to, practice for the elements by practicing outside, during the winter time and all that. So you can practice that. In sparring, you can practice with a southpaw. You can spar with a guy that's, very aggressive or mimics your opponent's style. What you can't practice for is blood in your eye. How do you do that? Unless you pour corn syrup, over your eye or something. I don't know.
Well, we know.
That's a very good point.
We know from history a lot of boxers used brine to toughen up their skin to prevent cuts. Jack Dempsey, he actually soaked his face in brine. That's dedication. But yeah, I mean, it's just like the hide of an animal. It toughens it right up. So it's just one of those ways they've used over the years. And it's just like in martial arts too. The training they teach you on how to toughen up your knuckles and your hands. Punch brick wall 10,000 times, or a tree. Just give yourself scar tissue is the basic principle behind it. You build up scar tissue and it becomes like a buffer.
It was funny on that point, Rich. After the fight was over, and I was talking to my dad about the fight. We were just talking about and some different cuts that we've seen over the years and how bad some of them were, and things like that. And two stories I remember. One, I watched the fight, but I was really too young to really understand it. And then the second one was a fight that I remember watching as it happened. The first one was the rematch between Boom Boom Mancini and Livingstone Bramble back around, I think, 84, 85. And going into their first fight, Boom Boom was not mentally the same fighter after the Doo Kyu Kim tragedy, but he also, I read this in his book, was having trouble during training because of such severe hemorrhoids that he was like pulling blood every time he went to the bathroom. They said he was basically like low on iron. He was a complete low, and he just didn't have the same strength and stamina and energy. So now they have the rematch, and in Reno, Nevada, and Ray going into the fight had really, just they said his scar tissue was like just ready to burst, at any moment. So first round, he just opens wide up, and I mean he's pouring out blood pretty good. And they said by the 7th and 8th round, his cut man had run out of the thromboline. What do you call that? The not the anecdote, but you know what I mean. The salve.
Yeah.
He ran out of it, and they were using the residue of the thromboline that was left on the Q-tips from previous rounds. They were pretty much out of it. So after that fight was over, a lot of people thought Boom Boom won. He didn't get the decision. They said Bramble goes back to his hotel. It was a really rough fight. He had taken some hellacious body shots. They said he wanted to get a hot bath. They said he was covered in so much of Ray's blood, it was on the bottom of his feet.
Ugh.
The feet that were in his boxing shoes, they said it was just that saturated. They said he sat in the bath water, and they said like next thing he knows, the bath water was turning blood red.
Ugh.
Just from all Ray's blood leaking off into the system. Another guy that was a notorious bleeder, Arturo Gatti, and they said Gatti was a guy that he'd get cut in the fight, and they said he wouldn't want to wait to go get stitched because he wanted to go out to a night.
What about the two Rockies?
They put those little what?
The two Rockies. Chuck Wepner, they say, is the real Rocky. They stole Sylvester Stallone.
The Bayonne
Stole his story. Yeah, they called him the Bayonne Bleeder. And then the real Rocky, when he got his nose split open against.
In half, yep.
Yeah.
Well, back
As
with
a Charles.
Arturo, because the one thing I read, the other one I actually watched. They said Arturo would just not want to wait to get stitched. He'd want to go out to the club. They'd put those little bandage strips.
Yeah.
Those butterfly strips.
Yeah.
And he would go to the club, and they said he'd be actually dripping blood on the dance floor.
That's attractive. Yeah.
And but I remember watching. I watched one of his fights. This was right around this was before the Mickey Ward fight. It was before he hooked up with Buddy McGirt, and it was like he had those couple tough losses to Angel Manfredi and Ivan Robinson. He got cut real bad in the Manfredi fight. That's what forced the stoppage. So now he's fighting a guy, a fringe contender by the name of Joe Hutchinson. It was on ESPN, and it was in Montreal where Gotti originally was raised before he relocated to Jersey. And I remember watching this fight back around 1999, 2000, and I'll never forget it because now, which I think is as great as I said earlier, they do use a type of instant replay where you can say, no, that was definitely a punch or that was definitely a headbutt. Well, in this fight on ESPN, Gotti gets caught in the first round with a headbutt. Unintentional, but a headbutt. And he opens up bad. And the referee rules it a punch. So now if you stop the fight, it's a TKO for Hutchinson. And you're in Gotti's, basically original backyard of Montreal, pro-Gotti crowd. And now it's like, oh shit, he's just absolutely pouring blood. And Rich, if you go back, when I wrote that tribute article about Gotti after his passing, and I used a couple still photos of him, the one where he has the real bad cut over his eye, I believe was from that fight. And now it's like, oh shit, what's going to happen here? But Arturo fought 9.5 rounds like that. Just absolutely gushing blood, and won the decision. Those were two that I remember personally. Of course, you brought up, Rocky Marciano. You brought up Chuck Wepner. Chuck Wepner, the Bayonne Bleeder. How about another guy? And I know Tom is going to remember this name well, Henry Cooper. That guy, you go back to his fight with Ali, it was basically two left hooks, and he was, just a crimson mask.
Tom, you with us?
Yes, sir.
Oh.
Just flashing back with my memory of that. Ugly. A lot of scenes, and when he fought Sonny Liston, it was even worse. What was there, like 80-some stitches? Wow.
I can believe it.
Yeah.
80 stitches, yikes. Yeah, I actually saw this guy get stitched up live at the fight one time. He just did it right out in the corner of the audience one night, late after the venue was getting ready to close, but people were still there, and I just watched him get stitched right up. He had one of them cuts just like Tyson, but he won the fight too. It's just a matter of how well you can work around it, and I thankfully never got one in my career.
Really?
Got a couple bloody noses, but never really had a problem bleeding. Not even in wrestling, really. I had a lot of friends had to get their noses cauterized, but I never really had a bloody nose in wrestling at all. But one time I did have a kid hit me at a knee in the lip, and my bottom tooth went right to my bottom lip. Like way down on the part that really doesn't have a lot of blood in it, but right under the lip part. It was bad. They're like, do you want to continue? Yeah, we can see your tooth through your lip. I don't think so. That didn't bleed very much at all. Anyway, we got a couple funny stories, then we got a sort of serious story talk about. Well, really serious story. First funny story. Conor McGregor smacked up that old man in the Irish bar because he wouldn't drink his whiskey.
Yeah.
Well, of course, everybody in everybody in there, brother, mother, sister, father, whoever, were probably wanting to call Conor out for that one. But one guy called him out, and it got personal. And apparently Conor has agreed in principle. He called this dude right over the phone. And he's an Irish boxing champ already. WBO, I believe. WBO European champion. And of course, Conor hasn't fought in such a long time. We barely remember it. Anyway, the supposed fight, you could call it, in the bar, might lead to another big fight here. Because this guy, WBO European champion, Cool Hand Luke Keeler. Cool Hand, that's his nickname. He took to Twitter to blast McGregor for his actions, and he said, sad to see the notorious MMA stoop so low. Did the same to a friend of mine a couple years ago and still walking around acting the gangster. I'd be happy to put him in his place if he had the balls to step in a ring again. And so apparently Conor heard about the message, and he decided to call Keeler right up on the phone. And Keeler said, I didn't want to get into it too much, but I know he wasn't happy about the call-out. The fight community in Ireland is small enough, and Crumlin isn't too far from Ballyfermot, and I heard he wasn't happy with the timing of it. He rang me and we had a few words. I told him the fight was there to be made, and he was all for it. He agreed to fight over the phone. Yeah, that's one thing to agree to fight over the phone, but I mean, you haven't signed anything, and there's no co-promotion involved, so the UFC is obviously going to have a piece of it if it happens. It's all a pipe dream, but he even says it. I agree it could just be talk. Whether he has the balls or not to get in the ring again, never mind with me. We will have to see. He could have just been trying to front up or speaking in anger, but it got to the stage where I felt comfortable enough passing on to my management team. So at least one side wants to make it happen. I don't know. I mean, maybe Conor's too busy drinking his whiskey, so he doesn't have time to get back in the cage. We haven't even heard rumors of who he might be fighting next. So kind of crazy. I don't know why that kind of crap happens. These guys get too big for their own britches, I guess. Can't make a fight. Anyway, we talked about this guy last week. I made fun of his name. Avery Sparrow. Well, Avery Sparrow is quite the notorious gangster, it appears, because he missed his fight because he was arrested. And it was funny because there's this article on BoxingNews24.com that I forwarded you guys, and it calls him the Sparrow, like he's a hitman or something. The Sparrow. You don't want to piss this guy off. The Sparrow will come get you.
Yeah, not the eagle, not the raven. I mean, I could think of badass birds, but the sparrow, man.
Well, now we know why he had such a shitty name, too. Maybe it's a fake name. Avery Sparrow. The U.S. Marshals had been looking for him. 10-1 fighter with 3 KOs in gyms in hopes of arresting him. And he was supposed to be the co-feature bout on the Jamie Munguia versus Patrick Allotti card on DAZN last Saturday. His opponent was talking smack about him at the weigh-in because he was nowhere to be found. I just want to know where he's at. He said he talked a lot and he's not here. He told me he makes 126 easily. I don't know where he's at. I wanted this fight, so somebody call him. Somebody ring him up. Let's fight. Let's get this on. And then the Sparrow flew away. Flew away to the big house. So now the next fight for Ryan Garcia will be November 2nd against Romero Duno, who is 20-1 with 15 KOs. So this was obviously going to be a practice fight for stepping up, but now he steps way up. So this could have some implications for Garcia anyway. Obviously for the Sparrow, it's going to have some serious implications. But we don't even know what he's charged with. It's just so crazy though that he got arrested before he could go in.
I know. Like he's part of this, I don't want to say stable, but his promotional obligations with Russell Palace. Because I know Russell and Michelle Rosado have been, on social media, but they've been not saying much, which, I mean, that's understandable.
Right.
But they just expressed disappointment.
Yeah, it reminds me of the CSI story we had on years ago, where the guy got caught for a bank robbery with the Q-tip from the fight he was in, because he had a bloody nose, and the FBI guys or whatever, they went over right to the trash and they picked out the bloody Q-tip and they nabbed him on his DNA for a bank robbery, like years before. Couldn't plan an episode of CSI better. Now here's the bad story. I don't know if you guys didn't know this already, but now you're gonna know it. Routine sparring in boxing can cause short-term impairments in brain-to-muscle communication and decreased memory performance, according to new research. University of Sterling. I don't know where.
New research. Boy, what a shocking development. Who could believe that?
I am flabbergasted.
The study assessed boxers before and after a 9-minute sparring session where athletes trade punches without the aim of incapacitating each other. Well, that's in some gyms. Others, not so much. Anyway, the study, alongside the team's 2016 research into the impact of heading footballs, is one of the first to show that routine impact in sport, thought to be innocuous, results in immeasurable changes in the brain. Experts believe the findings raise further questions around the safety of other sports where similar routine impacts occur, and say further research is required. Well, head impacts are very important to me too, because I just had one. Got hit with a branch a couple weeks ago there, and man, yeah, I can relate to those football players not wanting those helmet-to-helmet hits. That's what it felt like. Yeah, and I had some cognitive difficulty over the next couple days. Went away very fast, but it did remind me firsthand of the last time I sparred. And I think it was the time I cracked my rib. And then 2 weeks later, I broke my ankle. But when I had a tough sparring session, it would just be like this weird feeling in your head. It wouldn't hurt. Just weird feeling in your head if you took a couple too many head hits. But the same thing is, any kind of situation where you're going to get hits to the head. And really, I always go back to the monkey video from White Collar Boxing. These guys, they put this video series together, Tom, back in the day, called White Collar Boxing, and they fought each other at the end, these two guys that were just like technical guys in cubicles. And they decided to put this series together, and now they're doing stuff full-time for other sports teams and everything. But it was an amazing little series, and they had this guy from Harvard on there, and he had this monkey who was strapped into this little machine, and it had like a helmet on, and the helmet was controlled by the machine, and it would tilt its head sideways violently, and the monkey would just pass out. And it wasn't a punch that did it, it was just a movement of the head. So it was trying to show you that that's what a concussion basically is. That's what knocks you out. That's what sets your switch off, is your brain slapping against your head because of the movement. And that's what gives you the knockout. So a lot of people don't understand, what is a concussion? Well, it's just basically you get hit so hard your brain slaps against the side of your skull and then jiggles around a little bit. So that's the simple way of putting it. But yeah, studies say getting punched in the head is bad for you.
I wonder what kind of a grant they received of taxpayer dollars to conduct that study.
It was Muay Thai too, believe it or not. 20 boxers and Muay Thai athletes before and after 9-minute sparring sessions. Measurements were taken immediately after the session, and then 1 hour and 24 hours later. Motor control was measured using transcranial magnetic stimulation, which I don't know what that means, but sounds technical. Actually, it uses magnetic fields.
You put some you attach something and it gives you a little jolt
Uh-huh.
in the brain. I'll send you a link if you want to buy one of the devices.
Okay. The team found out that 1 hour after sparring, the participants showed impaired brain-to-muscle communications and decreased memory performance relative to controls. After 24 hours, these effects returned to baseline. So, not so bad. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much my experience. Never lasted more than a couple of days. You know, if it lasts a couple of days, you're pretty hurt. But my second day wasn't so bad from even getting hit by a tree. So, with a helmet on, though. I did have a helmet on, albeit a thin one. So, yeah, that's typical, I guess. But the thing is, the NFL hits and all that. The thing that really has been really been front and center in the media is not so much the one hit; it's the cumulative effect of the hits over years and years. It gives these guys CTE and causes all kinds of brain trauma. And then they call it pugilistic dementia in boxing, where you just get the permanent effects of a sparring session gone wrong, unfortunately. But anyway. Even hitting of footballs has resulted in short-term changes to brain function. So they tested that too. Anyway.
Well, I still think that the most dangerous sport in the world is, aside from synchronized swimming, of course, is soccer. Because, in boxing, you try not to get hit in the head. Where in soccer, you run and you hit that hard ball right with your unpadded knob.
Actually, the most dangerous sport in the world is technically one of the most dangerous occupations above my own, too. You know what that is?
Yes, logging. I've heard that.
No, logging.
Sure.
Logging is up there, but it's not as high as this one I'm thinking of. Starts with an F.
What's an F?
Yeah, F.
Fencing?
Fishing. Fishing kills.
What,
Fishing kills
you
more
like a
people than
shark?
anything. Fishing kills everybody.
Well, I did watch Jaws.
All right. Unfortunately, it's not while they're fishing all the time that kills them. It's while they're out fishing or get caught in a storm and they sink. But technically, all the deaths in fishing outpaces almost every other occupation there is, and they have also used that in polls to try to trick people when they call it a sport. But usually, it's the occupational fishing, not really the sport fishing, that kills people. But I'm sure there have been people that just thought they could reel in the big one, and the big one ended up reeling them in. But a few tuna fishermen.
What a way to die, huh? What a way to die. Jeez.
Ultimate revenge for the fish, but probably never gets to realize he did it.
Yeah.
Unless he eats the guy if it's a shark. So that's it for that one. I guess we just got to talk about fights now. UFC Fight Night 158. We talked about the main event, Cowboy versus Gaethje. It just barely lasted around not even 4 minutes and 18 seconds into the first there. And Gaethje came out the winner. All punches there. And did you get to see it, Tom? Can you tell us anything about it that I can't?
Not really. It was, I just seen the highlights.
Uh-huh.
And, it was one of those, you knew that if Justin was going to win, it was going to be quick, and it was.
All right.
Well, they were Cowboy. They really had good sportsmanship after the fight. That was kind of the highlight of the night. You could tell these guys were really friendly with each other.
Yeah, well, they've been around. I mean, more so Gaethje in other leagues, but Cerrone, yeah, he's been around. He's fought a lot of guys, and obviously it takes a specific effort to beat him. A lot of people he can handle with his experience, but once somebody gets that reputation of just coming at you and not stopping and zombie fighting, It's hard. It's hard to develop a strategy against someone like that. Even if they do have weaknesses, you've got to last to get to their weaknesses. And Gaethje,
and it'll just be interesting if he gets a shot at Khabib. It'll really be a fascinating fight.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he can do better than what we've seen so far.
Justin Gaethje. Just proved me wrong anyway. I thought Cerrone's experience was going to be the factor that made this a win for him, but nope. Loses again and kind of stumbles down the ladder a little bit. So, he's just going to be that guy, the name. He's going to fight for the name, basically. Get a couple main events here and there, but I don't see him lasting too much longer. He's probably getting to that stage where this is getting frustrating more and more every loss that he takes, knowing that he's going to be farther and farther from the title, and knowing that he's getting up there in age and experience. Sometimes experience can be a bad thing, right?
Yeah, and he probably doesn't want to fall into that gatekeeper status, but at this stage.
Yep. And then we had some longer fights. Lots of decisions. Glover Teixeira over Nikita Krylov by a split decision. We had Todd Duffy and Jeff Hughes ending with an eye poke. Accidental eye poke, no contest. In the first round. Tristan Connolly beating Michael Pereira by unanimous decision, but that one actually made a story on CNN because I guess Michael or Michel, so spelled Michel, he was literally flipping around the cage. He was doing backflips and acrobatics, and I think he was told before the fight he was going to be at a taping of TNA Wrestling. Because, he didn't get the memo. He was going to be in a UFC fight. So, one of the comments that his opponent made after the fight was, I've never seen backflips work for me. I can't really do one in a fight. I definitely don't think it would work for me. Usually punches and kicks work for me. So, it's a good point, yeah. I think the kid was thinking he was doing capoeira there, Pereira. But it's not a good style for fighting, obviously. And then Uriah Hall, a guy known for his kicks, got a split decision win over Antonio Carlos Jr. Or not known for his kicks, but known for the kick, really, and the best kick in Ultimate Fighter history, really. Unreal. Misha Cirkunov also got a big win over Jim Crute by Peruvian necktie submission. 3 minutes and 38 seconds into that one. You know what a Peruvian necktie is?
Such a cool name.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to get. Extremely hard to get. Hard to even do in the gym, let alone a real fight. That's talent.
And I imagine it's named after something that's a little bit more violent than a choke. By the way it sounds. Peruvia. I don't know what Peruvia is all about, but if you go there, don't get a necktie. Anyway, Augusto Sakai. He beat Marcin Tybura by knockout 59 seconds into the fight. And then fifth fight of the night, Miles Johns beat Cole Smith by split decision. A lot of split decisions. Judges couldn't make up their minds, I guess. A couple unanimous decisions. Hunter Azor beat Brad Katona. Chaz Skelly over Jordan Griffin. And then we had another TKO 4 minutes and 43 seconds into the fight. Ryan McDonald went down by TKO to Louis Smolka. Second fight of the night. Austin Hubbard in the first fight of the night. Might have earned himself a Sherdog picture because he's the only one on the card that didn't have one. But he got a win. He got a big win, so he's going to probably get one now. Kyle Prepolek got the loss there, unanimous decision. And then we got UFC Fight Night 159 coming up this weekend, this Saturday. Yair Rodriguez and Jeremy Stevens going at it. And Yair had quite the dispute with the UFC going on. We talked about it months ago. I'm not going to go over the details, but basically he He left the UFC in a contract dispute, and then they needed him back, so he signed back. He was talking all kinds of smack about them, and it was just an ugly debacle. But now he's their golden boy again, and he's fighting in a main event. So he's 11-2. Jeremy Stevens is 28-16. And then we have a co-main event and a female fight. Carla Esparza, 14-6 against Alexa Grasso, who is 11-2. Then we got undefeated fighter Oscar Oskarov, who is 10-0, fighting Brandon Moreno, who is 15-5. And I believe that's the one they call McLovin, because he looks like the character from Superbad. Brandon, he's kind of a crazy fighter too. He's got a weird style. Then we got Irene Aldana, 10-5, fighting Vanessa Milo, who's also 10-5. So matchmaker did his homework there. Marco, supposed to say Polo. Marco Polo Reyes. He is 8-6. Fighting Kyle Nelson, 12-3. He's really named Marco Polo, believe it or not. Marco Polo Reyes. I thought you guys were going to do it. I was waiting. Angela Hill also on the card. She's 9-2, fighting Ariane Carnelosi, who's 12-1. And then we got former guest of ours back in the day, way back, Sergio Pettis. Hopefully going to do better than his brother in his last fight. 17-5, fighting Tyson Nam, who is 18-9-1. Vinicius Moreira Castro, 9-3, fighting Paul Craig in the third fight of the night. Paul's 11-4. Sajara Eubanks, 4-3, fighting Betch Correa, who is 10-4-1. Sajara just recently won the Ultimate Fighter, one of the last seasons, and Betch is just up and down, a lot of ups and downs. She had a brutal fight last time, I believe. It was like she was just somehow got the win, but it was just back and forth, really very bloody, very violent. But yeah, she somehow, I believe, got the win in her last fight. I forget who she fought, but I do remember that one. So Sajara is a tough test, but she's 4-3. Don't let the record fool you. Bet's 10-4-1. Then the first fight of the night, Claudio Puelles, 8-2, fighting Marcos Mariana, who is 6-5. And we got boxing. Lots of boxing. So last week, the big fight was Jamie Munguia beating Patrick Alati on the main card, where the Sparrow took flight to avoid. And we had Jose Pedraza also losing to Jose Zepeda in the Battle of the Joses. Well, I put my money on Jose, so I won.
Yeah, that was a good bet.
The sniper, though, that's been somebody that we've been promoting on our website for years. Been getting emails from his people forever. That's tough news for his team. But Zepeda won the day in the Jose's. And then Tyson obviously got the big win over Otto Wallen. And then we had the Mueller fight instead of the Mueller report. Rico Mueller. We got a tough fight against Jeremias Nicholas Ponce. Lost that one. And then this weekend, really don't have a ton of fights. The big one is Thomas Dulorme versus Terrell Williams. Saturday. Let's see if we got anything else on the in-depth look. It's a slow week for boxing, and then we got a big one next week. Errol Spence Jr. versus Sean Porter.
Next week.
Anthony Durrell versus David Benavidez. Pretty good ones. Mario Barrios versus Batur Akhmedov. All going on next week. Also a female fight on Friday next week. Nicola Adams versus Maria Salinas. We'll talk about that next Thursday. But now let's get to the 21st, and we'll go through what we've got here. See what kind of funny names we can find this week. Ooh, that's a tough record. 31-27. That guy can't decide whether he wants to really try or be a loser. 31-27. 5-0 versus 5-38 in Colombia. All right. What is going on? Main event here in Germany looks pretty good. Prince Patel, 20-1 with one draw at bantamweight, fighting Luis Melendez, who is 47-12 with one draw. And the co-main event is less appetizing. We have Jens Tietze, who is 13-1, fighting Nedeljko Kvorovic, who is 2-28. 2-28.
Wow.
That's our potential mismatch of the week, unless you like this one better on the same card. Middleweights, Matthias Eklund. I don't know if he's related to the Mickey Ward Eklunds, but he's 10-2, fighting Edis Zambas, who is 3-23. One more win, 23 losses. And we got 15-0, also in Germany. 15-0, Bjorn Schick. He's on a different card, but he's 15-0, fighting Ronnie Mittag, who has got 30 wins, 4 losses, and 3 draws. Nothing too crazy on the rest of that card. What else we got going on? This could be considered a mismatch if the guy wasn't undefeated. In Tokyo, we have Tsubasa, Tsubasa Marachi. He is 4-0, fighting Froilan Saludar, who has got 30 wins, 3 losses, and 1 draw, for the vacant WBO Asia Pacific Super Flyweight title. Say that 10 times fast. Okay, and we have, there's our Jesus Fight of the Week main event. Baja, California. Joseph Diaz, 29-1, fighting Jesus Cuadro, who is 18-5. Co-main event is Leonardo Baez, 16-2, fighting Edixon Perez, who is 19-4. And as last week, same as last week, we got 2 Jesuses on the same card. And you got a guy with 4 names who's Mexican. He's got a 1 in 4 chance of one of them being Jesus. Super bantamweights. Roberto Villarino Perez, 4-0, fighting Victor Jesus Perez Ramirez, who's 1-2. Jesus is somewhere in the fights every week. Sometimes he shows up twice. Alright, and then we got some fights in South Africa worth mentioning here. Somebody's always got to go in one of them. Kempton Park, South Africa, we got Kevin Larina in the main event. He's 23-1. Cruiserweight, fighting Sefer Safiri, who is 23-2-1. And that one's for the IBO World Cruiserweight title. So it's a big fight for South Africa. They don't get those big fights nowadays. Real world titles. The co-main event, somebody's always got to go. Marios Matamba, 11-0, fighting Jabulani Mackenzie. And Mackenzie is not spelled like you think it is. Makhense. He is 8-0. So 11-0 versus 8-0 for the WBA Pan-African Super Lightweight title and the International Boxing Federation Continental Africa Super Lightweight title. Had to take 2 breaths for that one. Ridiculous. And then we got some in Thailand worth mentioning, believe it or not. Probably going to butcher these names. But the main event, Nawafon Kaikana, 46-1-1, fighting Patrick Layukoto, 9-1-1 for the WBC Asian Boxing Council Bantamweight title. Then you got Karun Jarupayanlerd. That's a weird name. 43-9, fighting Renz Rosia, who is 15-8-1. That's it there. Alright, then we got the dual arm fight. Fox Sports 1 on Saturday from Bakersfield, California. We got a couple big ones here. I'll just go right to it. We got a Jesus fight on this card too, of course. Thomas Delorme, main event, 24-3-1 at welterweight, fighting Terrell Williams, who's undefeated, 18-0. I don't know. I haven't seen a lot of Delorme. I've seen his name a lot. I don't know anything about Williams. What do you know about these guys, Tony? Who's going to win?
You know what? I mean, I gotta go. I mean, Dorm is more of your name.
Right.
I mean, I mean, it's hard because, like I said, I've seen him. I've watched him a little bit. I don't have a full catalog on him, but I've seen him. It's a hard one to say because I don't have a whole lot of I don't have enough background info on them to make a accurate type of prediction.
Well, so far the toughest fighter he's beaten, I would say, is Justin Deloach. The only one I've heard of. That's Terrell. Pritchard Colon he did beat when he was 16-0, but that was a disqualification win. So I wouldn't necessarily count that. The guys he knocked out were very subpar. From the top side of his record, I mean. Basically, the last guy he knocked out was back in 2017. Rosenberg Gomez. He was 19-6-1. Knocked him out back in November of 2017, and the Pritchard Colon disqualification win before that. Prior to that, the knockout before that was Tavoris Teague.
He had Pritchard Colon pretty much out on his feet, and what happened there likely saved Colon's life was at the end of the 9th round. That fight I did watch, and he had Colon hurt pretty bad. They went back to the corner after the 9th round, and Colon's trainers started taking off his gloves, trying to say that they thought it was the last round, that the last round had just completed. And what they were basically doing was buying their fighter some time, saying, oh, wait, no, it's not the last round. It is, one more round to go, and that was buying him a little bit of time. And what the referee did there was disqualify Colon, for his trainers removing his gloves before the conclusion of the fight. And then Colon, fainted and underwent brain surgery, and he is living in a diminished capacity. I follow his recovery on Facebook, and he is conscious. He can communicate, but you can tell he is definitely impaired, and he's not. If he is verbal, it's very slow and incoherent.
Yeah. I believe that was in 2014, wasn't it, when that happened? 2014?
Yeah, it was definitely a couple years ago. So
yeah.
2014.
I'll tell you in a
Is that
second.
right?
It was 2015, 10/17, October 17. Yeah. So yeah, that was probably his toughest fighter that he faced so far. Justin Deloach. I mean, I've heard of him, but Richard Colon was going in undefeated. And a lot of prospect, big prospect. Alright. So, for the rest of the card here, or the rest of the week, again, that's the first fight of the card. Peter Quillen, co-main event, super middleweight, 34-1-1, fighting Alfredo Angulo, who is 25-7.
Interesting there. You have two fighters here that, maybe are, on their back nine. I would say Quillen is probably a little bit fresher of the two fighters. He had that one-round loss to Danny Jacobs, but still has a pretty impressive resume out there. And then you turn around and you have, Alfredo Angulo, who came up as a junior middleweight. So he's the naturally smaller fighter, not by much. But Angulo, he, had some impressive wins, but then he took some damaging losses, some punishing losses. So you think, that's got to, really have him, go a little further closer to the retirement status than Quillen. But he's got the puncher's chance, of course, too. So what I think you're going to see in this one here is a lot of excitement. There's going to be some fist flying. And it's really just going to be, who has the better recuperative powers and who has maybe the better defensive prowess. So I think with those, you have to lean towards Quillen.
And well, look at this. I just noticed the
What?
the bare knuckle boxing show put on by Ken Shamrock is also this weekend, and they have it listed on BoxRec. Yeah, because I was wondering why they have Ishe Smith on there as the debut, and then I'm thinking, oh shit, that's Ken Shamrock's fight.
Yeah.
He's fighting Esteban Payan, who's 1-0 in the bare knuckle circles. Mark Godbeer versus Jack May. Ramio Sakuju versus Ciala Saligia. Mike Richmond in his debut versus Juan C. Lamas. James McSweeney fighting LeVar Johnson. We got Dane Sayers versus Joshua Dyer. Chris Jensen versus Zach Thone. All debuting, really, except for Esteban. Alright, getting back to this card. In Bakersfield, we got Chris Colbert, undefeated. 12-0, fighting Miguel Beltran Jr., who's 33-7. And then we got Gary Antonio Russell at bantamweight, 15-0, fighting David Carmona, who's 21-6-5. And then we got our other Jesus fight of the week, Jesus Alejandro Ramos, coming in undefeated at 10-0, fighting Ricky Edwards, who's 12-3. And then we got lightweights, Michelle Rivera, 16-0, fighting Jose Luis Gallegos, 16-7. And a whole bunch of other good ones on here. Too many to mention. It's a good card. It's stacked, top to bottom. And how far are you from the old Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, Tony?
About 2 hours, 2.5 hours.
Well, if you want to make the hike, you can go see Chaz Witherspoon on Saturday in the main event against Curtis Harper down there in Wilkes-Barre. Chaz is 38-3. Curtis is 13-6, and it's a heavyweight fight. Nothing really else that great on the card, though. So that does it. But yeah, bare knuckle boxing now being covered on the old interwebs. But anyway, yeah, I'm gonna have to really do my homework and get that interview squared away for next week. Now that I got the audio figured out, I'm sure we can do that. Alright. So unless you guys got anything to add, I think that's it for this week. Till next week. If I survive alumni weekend.
I'm gonna send you an email for next week. I got to figure out my schedule. Because I got to see if I'm going over to my friend's house Thursday night, but I don't know that yet. So I'll email you guys within the next day or so.
So what do you got? You got an Eagles situation? They playing on Thursday night or something?
Yeah, we might do a good game together, but that's not definite yet.
All right. Well, we can switch things around if we have to. Bob, speaking of football, before I forget, did you guys notice how they snuck up on us this little pass interference challenge now that you can do?
I knew about that. I had heard about that. So, I mean, I guess after the New Orleans game last year, you kind of had to do that because that was such a terrible missed call. The one that bothered me in the game last week and ended up being the reason they lost the game was when a quarterback slides feet first, they say where he starts the slide is where he's down. So if he's running and he's got to get up to the 15-yard line for a first down, and he slides at 12, he's down at the 12. But the quarterback goes head first, that's considered that he's diving. And so last week, Eagles were losing. They take the lead on a touchdown. They go for the two-point conversion. Wentz does a roll-out run, and he dives for the end zone. And they say, even though it was a head-first dive, they said, oh, he gave himself up. They're like, no, he was diving for the goal line. And they called it back. They ended up losing by 4 points. Where if they would have got those 2 points, they could have kicked the winning field goal with, a matter of seconds remaining.
Right. Yes. Sucks when a situation like that screws you over. But yeah, I've always said that, it sucks that you can't challenge certain penalties. Like, if you can challenge, just a first down even, like whether you gained the first down or not, you can look at the replay for that. Why couldn't you ever challenge a penalty before? But it sucks because you can't challenge the other way.
Now we got to get that in the ring in the cage now. We got to get that in the ring in the cage.
Has it been challenged the other way though?
At least now.
This is something I got to ask because I haven't seen it yet. Can they challenge it the other way? Like if they get a pass interference call, can they challenge it and say was it really pass interference, or can you look it over and see that it's not pass interference?
Well, that's a good question. That I don't know for sure, but that is a great question. I don't know, so I don't want to.
And it's going to get ridiculous if they start adding all the penalties. Like, all right, we want to review this for a face mask. Some shit, people just get away with, and you go to the next play, and it's all good. But no, now they got to make it all technical. But yeah, boxing benefited from the replay this last week, so it could benefit from it. And I always talk about replay. I believe it was Erislandy Lara out there in the Cosmopolitan in Vegas at a fight that I was at, and I don't know if it was a disqualification or a point taken off, and it's really I think it was a point taken off, and it really screwed up the fight for Erislandy. But one of the Hispanic photographers was sitting right next to me. I was front row, right in the press section, and he comes up to me between rounds when that happened, when the point got taken away, and he shows me the picture, and sure enough, it's right on the belly, and it got called a low blow,
Yep.
right above the waistband. And he had it freeze framed, but referees don't get to see that shit. So they can take a point. All right, I guess that about does it for us. I'm going to go up to Norwich, where I used to box there back in the day, about 20 years ago. And spend the day tomorrow. And then I got to go all the way down to Massachusetts and go out on a cruise for the night. So, got big weekend plans here.
Cool. Well, that's cool. Have fun.
Yeah, I'll try. It's going to be my last break before all shit hits the fan with the wood season. Yeah. Fucking crazy wood demand. I guess everybody thinks it's going to be a bitter cold winter. Winter is coming. All right, guys, stay warm down there or out there.
All right, guys. Enjoy the fights.
Adios.
All right.